Welcome to Living Fully from the Sanctuary of Self, Rosicrucian Order Library, Part 1 of 2 on Words of Wisdom. The ancient mystical order Rosicrucis, also known as the Rosicrucian Order or AMORC, is a worldwide cultural, educational, and philosophical organization that is perpetuating the profound and practical teachings of the Rosicrucians. These teachings, as passed down and added to over the centuries, from ancient Egypt to Europe and now all over the world, pertain to the mysteries of the universe, nature, and humans themselves. The Rosicrucian Library is a source of spiritual wisdom and insight that includes the important writings by the respected imperators of the order such as Dr. Harvey Spencer Lewis, Ralph M. Lewis, and Christian Bernard. Today, we're glad to share with you an excerpt from Frater Ralph M. Lewis's book, The Sanctuary of Self. In the chapter titled Living Fully, we'll learn about life's different stages, its patterns, and deep roots in nature. Chapter 5. Living Fully. Epictetus states, life is indifferent. But he also asserts that the use of life is not an indifference. This may be interpreted to mean that life fulfills its function of generation and of the development of living things indifferently, insofar as the individual is concerned. Life follows a law of order and necessity in its creating. That is all one may expect from the physical aspects of life. When you reach maturity, or when you have procreated, or are able to procreate, the physical life cycle is completed insofar as it involves you. Life has no further interest in you. Life is entirely indifferent to whether you succeed in your ambitions or whether you fail. It is indifferent as to whether you experience suffering or happiness. In the nature of life, these factors do not exist. Such values depend upon the manner in which you use your life. Biological excellence exists only in that you are. The excellence of life is in the creation of you or the creation of any living thing. All other values which may be attributed to life come from the application of it. We may liken physical existence to a shovel. The final end of a shovel consists in its conforming to its design. A shovel is always nothing more. Any glory which can be attributed to it must come from its use in the hands of the user. And so, as Epictetus declares, life is indifferent, but the use of life is not. It is also the law of life, we're told in philosophical literature, to copy what follows from nature, that is, to pattern ourselves after it. If we desire every act and every circumstance of our living to conform to nature, it is incumbent upon us to observe nature in her many moods and aspects. We may construe this to mean that nothing exists outside the pale of nature. As we have been often told, there is nothing new under the sun. Everything has its form or its cause, rooted deeply in the laws of nature. Consequently, it behooves us, if we are to follow the laws of life, to tie fast to nature the elements of our imagination and our plans. The more, in fact, we inquire into the phenomena of nature about and in us, the more doors leading to the fullness of life will be unlocked. We can see this demonstrated about us. Every modern invention has its parallel in some existing phenomenon of nature. The camera with its lens, iris, and even its film corresponds to the human eye. The telephone receiver with its oscillating diaphragm may be likened unto the human ear, which also has its diaphragm and impulses which are carried from it. The most delicate electrical system corresponds to the sympathetic and spinal nervous systems. So, if we wish to expand our living, let us follow nature. Your life, your conscious existence, can only grow as you absorb into yourself more of the cosmos in which you exist. The growth of the conscious life is a kind of accretion. It consists in adding to ourselves the things and conditions which are around us. The conscious life, therefore, may be likened into a living cell. We must assimilate into ourselves, as the cell does, elements of the substance in which we exist, or our life will be exceedingly limited. Pythagoras compared life to the great games, such as the Olympian Games that were played in Athens. He said some went to the games to compete for prizes, others went there just to sell their wares as vendors, but best of all were those who became spectators of the games. The spectator of life is one who has a philosophical attitude. He doesn't presume that life has any single value to any man. He believes there are a variety of values, and consequently, he is always alert to many experiences and participates in as many as he possibly can, because in these varied experiences are buried gems, the gems which form the diadem of happiness. Pythagoras divided life into 4 quarters, each of 20 years. The first quarter is the childhood period. The second quarter is youth. The third quarter is young adulthood, and the fourth quarter, old adulthood. These 4 quarters correspond to the 4 seasons of the year, namely childhood to spring, youth to summer, young adulthood to autumn, and old adulthood to the winter season. Henry Cornelius Agrippa, born in 1486, was a great occultist, mystic, and philosopher. In his renowned work, The Magic Mirror, he also divided life into 4 quarters. The first quarter, he relates, is from the 1st to the 21st year. It is the spring season of the life and represents youth, love, and growth. The second quarter is from the age of 22 to 42. It is the summer period. It represents mind, intellect, maturity of thought, adulthood, fruitage, or accomplishment. The third quarter, covering the years from 43 to 63, the fall season of life, he depicts as wealth, physical and mental maturity, and karma. The fourth and last, or winter season, includes the years from 64 to 84 and is the time of the Passover, or the preparation for transition. Each of these quarters of life, he stated, begins with the vernal equinox or spring equinox, the spring period, and each of the quarters of the life ends at the winter solstice about December 21st. Kind viewers, we thank you for your presence for today's words of wisdom.